Hi, it's Vex, and today we have the top 10 cards from Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth. That is right. This is not number 10 or anything. It's just the one ring right there from that. That is in the countdown, but you don't know where, so we'll get to that in a bit. So, Tales of Middle-earth is a modern legal set, not standard legal, not pioneer legal. And it's got a lot of commander cards, but it has a lot of legendary cards, more commander cards. Commander-ish cards, as in general, not Commander 99. So what we want to do is figure out what cards are good in the 99 of the deck. This set has a lot, and I actually, be honest, I think Martian Machine had a little more, but it's got a lot of fun commanders, multiple versions of Gandalf. It's pretty cool. So let's go to honorable mentions like we always do. We have 3 honorable mentions right here. We have the 2 lands, Mount Doom and the Black Gate. Let's read Mount Doom. Legendary land. Pay 1 life. Add black or red. Comes into play untapped. That's what's really cool about Mount Doom. Very flavorful too, of course. 1 black red. Mount Doom deals 1 damage to each opponent. Very good in Obnixilis, Gersenstorm decks. But it's, if you have extra mana, you just tap this, tap 3 mana, and then ping everybody for 1. So it's pretty good. Then you have a game-winning or game-altering last ability, 5 black-red, sacrifice Mount Doom and a legendary artifact. Maybe your 1 ring, because it's a legendary artifact. Choose up to 2 creatures, then destroy the rest. Activate only as a sorcery. So it does have a very steep cost. It requires your legendary artifact and another creature and the Mount Doom itself and the 7 mana. So that is maybe, but I think the middle ability happens pretty often. And just even without the middle ability, the top ability, you get an untapped land, even though it costs 1 life anytime you tap it, kind of like Horizon land. Excellent, because there is no Horizon land for the Rakdos pair. So that is an honorable mention here. The Black Gate, this is cool too. As it enters the battlefield, you may pay 3 life. If you don't, it enters battlefield tap. So again, another land that has optionality of coming into play untapped, which I think is really cool. Add black. 1 black tap. Choose a player with the most life or tied for the most life. Target creature can't be blocked by creatures that player controls this turn. So essentially, it becomes unblockable, attacking the player with the most life. So that is pretty neat there. Like lands that come into play untapped, unconditionally. This is if you pay 3 life. Are very good in general. Then we have Galadrim Ambush. I'm probably saying it wrong. 3 green, instant. Create X 1/1 green elf warrior creature tokens where X is the number of attacking creatures. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn by non-elf creatures. So that's cool. It's kind of like Arachnogenesis for elves. It does make 1/1 elves, but elves are more supported tribe. So this goes in a very specific deck. I technically would rather play Arachnogenesis if I didn't have an elf deck. This goes really good and prevents all non-elf damage, kind of like Arachnogenesis with non-spider damage. So that's pretty cool here. Okay, so those are honorable mentions. We'll put them to the side. It is cool to say you can throw the ring into Mount Doom. Very flavorful. Start with number 10. Number 10, we have a card from the Commander set. Fourth Erlingas. I'm probably saying it wrong again. I don't remember Lord of the Rings very much, but hopefully I'm saying it right or partially right. X, red, white. Create X 2/2 red human knight creature tokens with trample and haste. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to 1 or more players this turn, you become the monarch. So that's really cool because you could just pay 3 mana, right? 3 mana, make a 2/2 per dude, attack. I do have the token here. It's a token right there, right? You don't attack with the instant. It's kind of sorcery. That's kind of crazy. You make a dude here, you attack. So you just let's pay 3 mana, make 1 dude attack. You get to become the monarch right away and draw a card. So it's essentially make a 2/2 draw a card. Of course, you wouldn't make a dude unless you can get into the red zone and kill and deal damage to turn to monarch. You can actually play for this alternate mode, red white, make no dudes, attack with your creatures you have, and then become the monarch. So it's cool how you can introduce the monarch to the game. People love the monarch. So fourth Erlingas is really, really neat. It's a way to finish the game or as a way to get you advantage with the monarch. You can X, let's say X is 10, you could decide to attack with 5 creatures, leave 5 for blocking. They don't have to attack, which is also a pretty neat thing here too. So let's leave those cards here. Don't forget to have your tokens. This card has 2 tokens, Monarch and the Human Knight. It's a red one too, so you can't recycle your old white ones. It's kind of weird, but it is what it is. All right, number 9, we have Elven Chorus. Let's read this one. 3 and a green. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. A little peek. You may cast creature spells from the top of your library. Creatures you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. This is a Cryptolith Rite and an Augur of Autumn stapled onto 1 card. And enchantment is harder to kill. So I think this is really, really neat. Your more creatures you cast, the more they help cast new creatures on top of your deck. So insane good card advantage. Green, of course, didn't need more card advantage, but why not? So I think that's insanely good at our number 9 slot. Number 8. Here we have Taunt from the Rampart. Another commander card. 3 red, white. Goad all creatures your opponents control. Until your next turn, those creatures can't block. So this is like Disrupt Decorum. Except for Disrupt Decorum, you would goad everybody. The first person would attack their creatures, and they would block with the second opponent could block with their goaded creatures, and then kind of negates your goading. Except for this is in another color, Boros, costs 1 more mana, but makes those goaded creatures not be able to block. So your opponents just all attack each other because they have to, and they all can't block. So it's a very interesting thing to do. So I think this is really good there. Number 7, Spiteful Banditry. A lot of people will say disappointed, it's not powerful enough, this kind of card sucks. But let's read this card. X red. When it enters the battlefield, deals X damage to each creature, including yours, of course. But you get to control what X is. Whenever 1 or more creatures your opponents control die, you create a treasure token. This ability triggers only once each turn. The reason people say it sucks because it only triggers once each turn, but let's be honest. Can you imagine a world where it just doesn't have that restriction? You do a full board wipe, you pay let's say 6. You do a board wipe, you kill 20 creatures, 20 of your opponent's creatures, you get 20 treasures, so you get more mana than this is worth. That card might be ban worthy. It probably isn't ban worthy, but that's insane, right? That's just on dockside level of crazy. Because let's say everybody has 1/1 tokens, you have 7 1/1 tokens, you pay 1 red, you make 7 treasures. That's dockside level of crazy. So I'm glad it has that restriction. It's still very powerful because I get to choose X. If I have a bigger creature, I can save it. It does make a treasure, and things die in Commander. A lot of things die a lot of time. So you just bank that 1 extra treasure here and there because it's an enchantment. It shows on the battlefield. Get that 1 treasure each turn or every other player's turn, 2 treasures around. It does pay you back, and I think getting tiny bit of value makes you not in the not the target. I know some people compare us to Meathook Massacre where they get a benefit for every creature dying. Meathook Massacre is good, but sometimes you're in red, you're not in black. I would play Meathook Massacre over Spiteful Banditry any day, but we're not talking about that set. We're talking about this set here. All right, number 6. We have our friend speaking about treasures, Mirkwood Bats. 3 black, creature bat flying. Whenever you create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses 1 life. It's 2/3. It does matter because you can attack for 2 damage. It's flying. It's got evasion. So I think Mirkwood Bats are pretty neat there. A lot of people have been complaining about this card, saying it's ban worthy. Again, I don't think so. This is very powerful because let's say hypothetically you have a Spiteful Banditry, right? You make a treasure that deals 1 damage to each opponent. You sack the treasure, it deals another damage to each opponent. So each treasure represents 6 total damage, which is pretty crazy. Imagine doing it dockside for 10 treasures. That's 10 damage on the front half to each opponent, 10 damage on the back half when you stack them. That is powerful, but you do have to build your deck around it. I know treasures are easy to make. So this thing does have a 4 mana casting cost. It's a little dude, so it's a creature, can be wiped off the board. It doesn't restrict your opponents from doing anything. And it doesn't say your opponent's tokens. It says your token, when you create or you sacrifice. So that's great. If it said whenever a token is created or sacrificed, then do this. That card would be broken. But this card, not too bad. Okay, so that's our number 6. Number 5 card of the set here. Lost March of the Ents. It costs a lot of mana, but it does a lot of things. Let's read this. 6 green sorcery. I don't have the regular version, which I wish it did. This doesn't look as good as the regular version to me, but this is the version we have, so that's the version I'm reading. This spell can't be countered, which is very, very good text because this spell does ridiculous stuff. Draw cards equal to the greatest toughness among creatures you control. Toughness, not power, like Return of the Wild Speaker and etc. Then put any number of creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield. All right, let's decompress this. Gives you card draw. You play this in deck with big creatures, Naya deck, Gruul decks, and big green decks. Big creatures, let's say even regular Tali or the new Tali 7, right? 7 toughness, you draw 7 cards, which is insane, for 8 mana. Then you could drop tons of creature cards. You could drop Eldrazi or whatever, just like bam, bam, bam. Like that's like free mana. So this like pays itself back, and it can't be countered, so you can't mana drain this thing for 8 mana. So I think you'll see this a lot in those big creature decks. This is a finisher. It's just one of many finishers at 8 mana, but this is cool because it just floods the board. So I think this is a very, very powerful card. Get ready for this card. Let's put that there. All right, number 4. And you weren't expecting this, were you? The One Ring. Just been sitting, chilling there forever. One Ring costs 4, generic legendary artifact, indestructible, of course, as a One Ring should be. It should be hexproof too, but I guess people can steal it. That's why it's not hexproof. But anyways, I digress. When a One Ring ETBs, if you cast it, you gain protection from everything. Even your own stuff too, actually. Just remember that. Everything until your next turn. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life for each burn counter on the One Ring. Put a burn counter on the One Ring, then draw cards for each burn counter on the One Ring. So this One Ring goes pretty nutso. You can draw tons of cards with it. First turn you cast it, you essentially have the half of the Teferi's protection from everything. You can't be targeted. Your creatures can be targeted, so your creatures don't have protection from everything, or your permanents don't have protection from everything. It's just you yourself. Your life total can change, so somebody could drain you out, like Mirkwood Bats. Does work to make the player lose life under the One Ring protection. The damage, let's see if anything to do with damage. Like you can't attack with Erlingas and stuff like that. Does this Mount Doom do damage? Yeah, this does damage, so Mount Doom, you won't take damage from Mount Doom. Stuff like that. So cool parts here. You tap this, put a burn counter, draw a card, and then, let's say next turn, right, you take 1 damage. You tap this, put a second burn counter, draw 2 cards. So you draw 3 cards, take 1 damage. And if you have a way to untap it, right, like a Voltaire key and such, untap it, tap it again, put a burn counter. You don't lose like each life every time you use it. The loss of life happens during the upkeep, so you can untap it and tap it. You can draw multiple cards, and then when your upkeep rolls around, lose that much life. So if you untap it many times, let's say you've tapped it 5 times, then you go back to your upkeep, you lose 5 life. So it's pretty good because if you've tapped it 5 times, you've drawn 15 cards. So just think about that card draw insanity. This is going to my Shurikai deck for sure. But this thing can kill you. I've seen it kill people, so don't forget about it. Don't over tap it and kill yourself. It's good in life gain decks, but it's just good in general because if you draw 15 cards, you should find a way to take over the game, board wipe them, get rid of the ring. I don't know. This is good in other construction formats because other rings kill the One Ring because of the legend rule. But of course, this is Commander. You don't have that luxury, so just be aware of that situation. Number 3. A card that everybody says should be banned. I don't think so. It's not even number 1 on my list. It's Orcish Bowmasters. Let's read this. I know there's 2 Bowmasters because it comes with 2 creatures. It doesn't have reach, just weird. It's 1 in black. Orc Archer. Flash. When it ETBs or whenever an opponent draws a card except the first one they draw on each of their draw steps, so any additional cards, Orcish Bowmasters deals 1 damage to any target, then amass Orcs 1. So at face value, you flash this in when somebody's doing a card draw. You make an Orc Army on ETB, right? You deal 1 to something, and then make an Orc Army. They proceed to draw their card. If they draw multiple cards and you get multiple triggers, let's say they cast a Brainstorm, right? They draw 3 cards. You get 3 Bowmaster triggers, deal 1 damage anywhere you want. Then you mass Orcs 3 times, so you get 4/4 Orc. So it's pretty powerful for 2 mana if you intercept like a Brainstorm, or a Last March of the Ents where they draw that 7 cards. You would have 8 power Orc Army, and then 1 for the ETB, and then 7 shots anywhere. So you could hypothetically kill one of those things that got dropped out of March of the Ents. So I think that is neat, but it doesn't prevent anything from happening. If you're playing against Bowmasters and you really need to draw like your 5 cards and you're like willing to take 5 damage or get part of your board wiped, then you know the risk, right? You draw their 5 cards, triggers Bowmasters, they get a big orc army. Yeah, you might lose a couple creatures here and there, but you still get to draw the cards. So don't forget, drawing 5 cards is still sweet. So let's put that token there with our token section here. Number 2, and no one's talking about this card being banned. This card is pretty strong. Cavern-Hoard Dragon. I love these generic names so I could reprint it, right? Orcish Bowmasters can be reprinted. Mirkwood Bats, Spiteful Banditry. Not 4th Erlingas. That's very Lord of the Rings centric. But so I love these generically good cards. The One Ring. I mean, it does have a generic name, but we know what the One Ring means. Cavern-Hoard Dragon, 7 red. Doesn't actually cost 9. The spell costs X Lex to cast, where X is the greatest number of artifacts an opponent's control. Speaking of Dockside Extortionist, if they make 9 treasures, this costs, or 7 treasures, this costs red. It's pretty cool. Flying Trample Haste, so you can attack right away. When it deals combat damage to a player, you create a treasure token for each artifact that player controls. So that player controls a lot of artifacts. It's very synergistic with Mirkwood Bats. You create that many treasures, so I think that's pretty cool. Again, this is depending on how many treasures a player plays. Usually you attack the player with the most artifacts. Boom. Make tons of treasures, refund yourself. This can make mana on a turn it comes into play. That's why it's really powerful. Or, there is a risk. Let's say no one has any artifacts. This costs 9 mana stuck in your hand. I like the way this is compromised, or there's drawbacks, right? The drawback is your opponents have no treasure. You pay 9 mana for this, or artifacts in general. Or if they're playing all mono green, they don't have any artifacts. You pay full price, but if they're playing all the artifacts, then you pay red, and bam, attack. Let's say 10 artifacts, you make 10 treasures. See? So it kind of scales. I love cards that say, I'm very powerful in this situation. If the situation doesn't arise, you still can cast it on the fair for 9. But hopefully they have 1 or 2 treasures to make it last. But it's very powerful when it's kind of like Dockside, right? Dockside sucks when no opponents have treasures or any artifacts or enchantments. Darkside is amazing when they have tons of it. So that's why I like this card as number 2. The power ceiling is insanely high. The floor is 6/6 Flying Trample Haste for 9. Not bad, not exciting, but people play a lot of artifacts. That's why it's number 2 in the list, just like where Dockside would sit. Number 1, and the thing I like the most in Magic is to win, of course, but the next best thing is to make your opponents bitter. And when do they become bitter? When they lose, of course. But anyway, I'm just kidding. They become bitter when they lose their stuff. This is worse because you take their stuff and the game goes on. They can't start a new game to beat you again with Subjugate the Hobbits. 5 blue. Now, this is a very controversial pick. I will admit that. But I believe it's very, very powerful. Gain control of each non-commander creature with mana value 3 or less. So let's decompress this. It costs 7 mana, right? It is a board wipe for all small creatures that are on your opponent's board, and it is a board creation for your board for all creatures. This does have the same issue as Cavern-Hoard Dragon, where, if your opponents all have big creatures, it steals nothing. But the ceiling is if they have all tiny creatures, you steal everything. And I like that. It's just like a board wipe, right? You got board wipe, there's no creatures on the board, then board wipe does nothing. We play Commander with tons of situational cards. Orcish Bowmasters, same thing, does nothing. I do like proactive cards like the One Ring, Erlingas, Elven Chorus. Taunt from the Rampart is, again, reactive. Spiteful Banditry is reactive. Mirkwood Bats kind of semi-proactive but synergistic. So you got some mix of proactive cards like this, mix of reactive cards like this, which makes Commander really fun. But Subjugate the Hobbits is, for each creature, it's a 2-for-1. You get to steal their creature. They get -1 creature, you get +1 creature. And imagine a token deck, like let's say somebody casts 4th Erlingas for 10, attacks those creatures or has those creatures on the battlefield. You Subjugate the Hobbit, steal all 10 of those things. And if they can't tap in response, you steal all those things, and then you can attack back and steal the monarchy back. So I think this insanely good. Don't sleep on this card. This card's insanely cheap, and I don't know why people are still sleeping on this card. Get this card. Get it now. Play it. Be sad when it's played against you, and understand that this is a many for 1. This is so good. This is not another high mana finisher, kind of like, where's our green dude, Last March of the Ents. I think it's pretty cool. Well, those are my top 10, plus some honorable mentions for Lord of the Rings, Tales of Middle-earth. Tell me what your top 10 or top cards are in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, give the video a thumbs up, smash subscribe button, hit the notification bell to be alerted for new videos in the future. And as always, have a wonderful day.